If you've ever roleplayed, be with Dungeons & Dragons, LARPing, or the humble forum Reddit roleplay, have you ever had a moment where it just felt so real? Where a character death brought actual tears to your eyes. Maybe an NPC said something that angered or hurt you for real. Or has a fellow player said something that made your heart flutter, even if the real you isn't like a happy relationship. If none of those apply, do you wish they did? I recently came out of a Minecraft Roleplay event called Adventure Ascension. It was like this 2-week event in like some fancy land of Horizon's Edge. 2 goddesses in the middle of a frosty breakup, and they made the problem of everyone there. I played Neri Nightshade. Neri Sunchaser, eventually, but she came to these lands as an Umamusume, yeah, guided by hoofprints of gold in her dreams. Now I have to emphasize, I do not play Minecraft. I got invited through an entirely roleplay angle. I had a handful of moments on the first day where I was just so frustrated I almost freaking quit. Fucking! What do you mean? Wait, I'm stuck on the ground? Wait, hold on, I think I'm stuck. I'm glitched. But there was a little roleplay moment I overheard on the train. A little awkward, but earnest. Reminded me of the live action role-playing days, the LARP days. It made me want to stick it out. Over the next 2 weeks, I dove into it so hard. I became obsessed with embodying Neri, her hopes to make friends, her struggles to realize her value, her search to find where she belongs, and it was intense. Most role players nowadays fall into a tabletop D&D kind. On average, it's 3 to 5 hour sessions, with some wackos going to 12 to 18. That was me back in high school. But for some folks, 3 hours is enough to get immersed. Some never feel it years into role-playing. Live-action role-playing can take course over a whole weekend, with big events with bickering lasting like a whole week. But have you ever tried to be someone else for 2 whole weeks? With like the urgency of the 2 weeks, meaning you only have so long to be it? Waking up, sleeping, being that person. The roleplay bleed, it was visceral. For folks that don't know, roleplay bleeds when the overlap of you and your character becomes really difficult to distinguish, and they start kind of affecting one another. Imagine having a scrape and putting a bandage on top. You, the player, are the bandage, trying to keep it all together. But when the emotions are overwhelming, it starts seeping through. That's bleed, metaphorically and literally when it comes to the bandage. Now, don't let me scare you off. Bleed is not bad. Bleed is part of the process, and honestly inevitable the deeper you into roleplay you go. It helps you engage in and understand your character in ways you can't from a purely writer's perspective. It's like sync ratios in Evangelion. You need a certain amount of it to embody and activate the character. Too little, 5-10%, your play is shallow. Too deep, 80-90%, and the person behind the mask is shedding tears. That's a rebound. When the EVA unit's arm breaks, they feel nothing at low percents, but everything the higher it gets. There was this moment in Ascension where these 2 characters, Laurel and like Envy, were mostly jokester types. They didn't roleplay a lot, like at all. But they once in a while they did. But during the wake of one of her closest friends, Milk, Envy vowed to chase after Kaz Luminous, the villain, and tear him limb from fucking limb. And I could hear a very real anger that also made me, Dice Queen D, shake, while Laurel just choked back sobs between her dancing. Because for Selene, partying and celebrating Milk's life through a wake was the only way we knew how to throw a funeral. You don't get there without bleed. Not without it sounding fake. One of the best ways to avoid it, or at least check yourself and keep you from falling in too deep, is to make a goddamn character. Making a character, like a character with a name and different background and all these other traits, helps you distinguish traits different from your own. Helps you identify plans and goals that you don't. you can't avoid having parts of yourself in them. It just happens. It's best to play with what you know, otherwise it's next to impossible. For example, I don't drink, I'm kind of a coward, don't care about rocks, and have very little sense of what family means. I couldn't play a dwarf to save my life. Gun to my head, yell at me to roleplay a dwarf, I'm gonna get shot. I have no idea. If I played this, there would be no roleplay bleed because there's nothing for me to attach or build off of. But if I play a dwarf, insecure but feeling like a proper dwarf, maybe raised with humans or gnomes, which really reflects like my own like diaspora, being Filipino, Chinese, German, and now in Canada, then that's something I can work with. Also, whatever character you make sure you distinguish from calling the players by the character names. This helps the separation from fiction and reality, helps prevent a lot of bleed from just the get-go. The ones I noticed bleed from the most and the worst were like those that they were just themselves. Same name, same personality, suddenly unknowingly affected by intensity of 2 weeks of just roleplay that they're not used to. When it comes to roleplay bleed, I want to say you'll always be able to tell when you're experiencing it, but you won't. Bleed is bleed. It sneaks up on you. You can get scraped, immediately brush it off, only to realize the blood is still going through your shirt hours later. It's something you can only truly recognize after years of experience. Another example from Ascension, there was this moment where my character Neri was calling at Esno for stretching himself out just too thin, trying to do too much, and the player Phantom had to step back because that was an actual flaw of his he tries to tackle, but tends to end up in his characters anyways. But he was only able to recognize that from years of roleplay. Someone fresh to this, someone might end up responding way more viscerally, perhaps with anger, tears, affection, however, and end up hating me for real. I try to do regular check-ins with myself, off mic inwardly when the emotions get high. I kind of just chant or ask myself, who am I right now? Who am I right now? It helps a little, but it's not perfect. Because even with 16 years of like role-playing, I can still find myself truly feeling the low points of worthlessness when my character gets rejected or stood up in game. In Ascension, there are these two characters, Tora and Daniela, who are in a relationship. The players are actually friends and just want an excuse to kind of hang out. But Tora is naturally flirty and kind of hits on every skirts in the land. Daniela wasn't used to this and regularly found herself actually hurt IRL when Tora would cheat on her, which in turn made the player Tora trying to make her best up to both Daniela the character through dates and the player through regular DMs. Note, neither of them knew about bleed before I talked about it with them, like at all. You could have been years with someone for years prior and still find your heart beating in ways you never expected it to. All through the power of bleed. Again, I need to emphasize, bleed is not bad. It's part of the process. In my eyes, if you are a flower, your characters are seeds. They're parts of you that you sow out, nurture, and grow into their own people, their own flowers. It's normal to care about characters in a story, and roleplay is no different. Sometimes you'll want to explore these characters to the fullest, see who they could become, what kind of flower they'll blossom into, and you'll realize that they're very different from you overall. You'll find yourself wanting to dig deeper into this character, and as they are a part of you, you might find yourself discovering new things, new perspectives that you just wouldn't have simply as you yourself the player. Through Neri, I truly discovered what it meant to embody being an Uma Musume, a horse girl addicted to running fast, that wanted to chase her dreams, that wanted to find a place to accept her. And I also learned what it meant to play a cleric, that truly adored her god. Because by God, do I have the biggest platonic crush on the person that roleplayed Goddess Selene. Oh my God, praise the sun. A healthy amount of roleplay comes from constantly checking where you're at, where the character's at, and if those are separate or together. Sometimes you want to keep yourself apart to push the story notes forward. Sometimes You want to walk hand in hand. But eventually you need to learn when to let go. Eventually, you need to put on a bandage and stop the bleed. Hi, I'm Dice Queen D. Thanks for watching this. If you want to hear more about like role-playing, if you want to hear more about tabletop RPGs, you can follow this. I can't promise I'm very regular. I post the videos when I want to. Deal with it. Thank you. Also, this is one of the first videos with my new model. No, that's probably the Gura video. In any case, I stream on twitch.tv. I have great friends. I made a lot of new friends through Ascension. All of them will be at the very bottom. Please follow them. They were delightful role players, and I hope to do a lot more with them in the future. Thank you for watching this. This video actually means a lot to me. Thank you. I'm so bad at these outros. How do I say goodbye? How do I say goodbye? And cut right here. Just cut. Just a flat cut.